Facebook. Welcome to episode 3 of our Market Mondays weekly podcast.
Good morning, everybody.
How's everybody doing today? Just wanted to recap what we did last week. We had Michelle in from Top Mark Federal Credit Union. We talked a little bit about banks, how lenders are doing, and kind of things for the future and what to expect. This week is going to be really exciting. We have on one of my favorite inspectors. We have Quintin from Stillwater Inspection Services. I've worked with him quite a bit, and he's here to just go over some aspects of inspections and, tell buyers what they need to know.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really, really good podcast. I'm super excited. So without further ado, let's welcome Quintin. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Josh.
That's awesome.
I did commercials with WIMA 4 years ago now with Mike.
He's a professional. Okay, he's a professional.
Then there's a really good chance.
I went in with him once a week, and we did a live thing, and he would edit the whole thing. So it was kind of cool.
There's a really.
My wife said, "Hey, you sound pretty good." I said, "No, I didn't." Before he would edit it. So.
Well, there's a really good chance you have a lot more experience at this than we do. So.
Right. I think. Did you say you had a great face for radio?
I have a great face for radio. Thanks.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Was it just for advertising, or did you go over?
It was a 90-day advertisement.
Okay.
And you always say when you do something as daily, it becomes a habit.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did the 90-day advertisement with Clear Channel, I did it through WIMA. Within the first 45 days, halfway through, this thing I just started to see it swelling. And then at the end of 90 days, I had people calling me literally. I probably averaged 7-8 calls a day.
Probably not much different than you're doing now.
It's all helped. So what happened, what I wanted to gain out of that, not was just the name recognition that I have, hopefully with a lot of people, but I wanted to gain agents. Agents was the key. So it got me into areas where I wasn't there before, just because somebody heard my advertisement. And so they called me, we set it up, and then I met the agent or the broker. And from there, it just grew. It just really took off.
So how many
I have right now
working with now?
68.
Wow.
68 that gives me at least 5 a year. Not that they're giving them to me, that I get from them.
You were doing other things before you got into general home inspections. What did you kind of do to get your start?
Back in 1986, I got into the Plasters local union out of Toledo, Ohio. So I started in construction on the commercial side of things. Mm-hmm. Learned a lot of skills from a lot of talented individuals over that time span. And then near my end stint of that, which was 8 years plus, I was running jobs for these companies, actually being the foreman, running the construction sites, it's an honor to get that because you earned it, so they saw what you've done. So you earned that recognition. Also, now you're running jobs. Mm-hmm. I was hired by an insurance restoration company. And what that is if you have a fire in your home, flood damage in your home, they hire insurance companies are paying for the bill. So these individuals would contact us to do the restoration of the homes. I was the foreman on those jobs here in the Lima area. With that experience I gained from that, you have to know how to put a house back together.
Yep.
You have a scope of work in the details of what needs to be done, but it's not just here's a piece of paper, give it to the employees. The employees never saw that. I had to know how to rebuild this house. Mm-hmm. And so that was this experience. That was a 14-year stint there that I was with that. In that process, in that time frame, I was also an independent insurance adjuster. Mm-hmm. You have to know how to do a house if you're an adjuster. So all of these things of time over my 30 plus years of being in a construction-minded industry has helped me with my business. And so that's where I can go through in an inspection process of things that I've learned, knowledge, and actually experienced over the years. It helps me with my business today. And I believe that's a tremendous asset to my clients because I have a lot of years experience in what to look for.
Sure. So I would just assume that all the experience that you got and everything, did that have a lot to do with monetary value? Like, did you actually have to?
Quote things, price
Yeah,
things out.
yeah. Like,
Myself, no, we had estimators to do that.
okay,
You just
We
said
had
what needed
estimators
done
to
and
go
then
out.
they estimate it.
What I did was I took the actual scope of work that the estimator produced to do the job. And then that was my guideline to do this particular fire damage or whatever the case, whatever it was.
I say I can definitely, I mean, but with your background though, I mean, that's pretty amazing that, you know, that where you're at now and how your business has grown. Is there a lot of competition? I mean, I know several other inspectors, but I mean, how has the competition been? Has there been more inspectors you see coming on the market or just kind of?
I've been doing this for several years now, and I've seen more get in and then leave.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not something that you want to, it's not a quick, easy money-making thing. You have to, like anything, you have to be determined what you want to do. You have a goal and what you want to do. I was doing inspections when I was working for the serial companies. So what I would do is I would pick up an inspection here or there after hours, naturally, because I had a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I built that clientele with agents during this time. So when I decided to go full tilt with myself, the foundation, if you will, was there. I know a lot of them get in. It's good money to make with doing the inspection, just good money. But if you don't have a base, and the base is agents, it can be very frustrating. When I first started this, I had 4 or 5 connections, and that was it. And it was like,
It took a while to
you're
build
not getting
it's
enough, you're
relationship.
not getting enough work for me, you know. Yeah. And so building a relationship is very important with any agent because you have to build that confidence and assurance that the agent is providing the information to the client to have an inspection done. So it was key that I did the job the proper way, but also the right way to see everything, and everything that's seen. That's the thing about inspections, is everything visible. If things are behind, let's say like a deep freeze, or it's in an area where I can't access that, I can't do those things. I can't be intrusive in my inspections.
Yep.
So, but the key thing is for me was to gain confidence with agents. And of course, once you do that, this agent will say, hey, I got this guy here. Does a tremendous job. He explains as he goes and all this kind of stuff. And that's how it builds. That's how it builds. I've doubled the size of my base of agents within the last 18 months.
I believe that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to say. Just how
Yeah.
busy.
I went from 34, literally from 34 to 68 in 18 months.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, so earlier you were talking about just like the different sizes of places that you've inspected and whatnot. Can you tell us so from a homeowner's perspective, how do you charge? Like, how do you make money on it? I mean, is it just based on square footage or cubic feet?
That was probably one of the hardest things to figure out at first. What I did was to get a feel from, this is before I got into it, I would ask around. I would call the inspectors, what's your quotes?
Mhm.
You know,
And
and
maybe
that's
how
before I
they're doing it.
really decided to get how you're pricing this. And so I would ask those questions. Now if they would see me call, they would know who it is, because
Yeah, right.
my number will come up on their phone. But what I did was, I believe at times this industry is a little overpriced, but I base it on a square foot uh, criterion where, let's say you have 1,000 square foot, and that's a very small home. So as time went along, when I first would do that 1,000 square foot home, it would take me 3 hours to do that inspection because I was learning how to do it. Today, that 1,000 square foot home, I could do it, and if there was nobody there, 45 minutes to an hour. So I base that on time, and time is very important. So it's not that I am doing a disservice to the client by having my time shrunk on it. I've learned how to be very efficient in what I do,
Yeah, no
Mhm.
doubt.
which is key. Um, I was going literally when I first started, I was going into a room 3, 4 times. So that's time. So now I go into a room, I do multiple things. I do the doors, I do the windows, I do the electrical, I do so many things in one room, go to the next one, do the same thing.
Yep.
So I have a literally in my mind, I have a 78-point checklist that I check on every single house. And so the more you do something, it becomes repetitive naturally. The key is do the time. So I look at a 1,500 square foot house or a 2,000 square foot house. In my mind, I know how long it's going to take. I ask the question to the client: is it a 2-story house? Is it a huge ranch? Does it have a basement crawl space or a slab? I ask all these questions. So when I'm giving the quote to the client, it's as fair a price as I can come up with. Because if it's a price where, let's say, 1,500 square foot house on a slab, there's no basement. I'm not going underneath the house for a crawl space or a basement. So time frame is going to be very short. But let's say there's a crawl space. It takes time to get into the crawl space, to do everything necessary to see every opponent or every component of that crawl space. That's time. So I base it on what the client gives me. I have no set minimum. The market would dictate a certain price. I don't go by what the market says. I've seen quotes that are less expensive than mine. That's fine. That's where I was years ago. I was less than anybody else. I'm probably higher than most, and I'm probably lower than most. But I feel like where I'm at with my quotes is where I feel it's fair for the client, which is key.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to, you were talking about time, and of course time is incredibly important, but as far as your reports that you actually have to fill out and everything, I assume you're not including that in the 45 minutes for 1,000 square foot house, or am I wrong?
The report time frame is going to be about the same for every report. If it's 1,000 square feet, or if it's a larger house, let's say it's a 2,500 square foot home, there's more components to that house naturally than a 1,000 square foot house. I don't figure that in because I always have a set time where I have to do the report. That's already figured in to the time for that particular job.
Well, I just assumed
it's
if
a
there was
minimal-
more issues with if there was more issues with the
The
property.
the issues would be the concern. There are the issues. There again, I don't know what the issues are going in.
Right. makes sense.
I'm assuming this house has issues like everyone. I've never found the perfect house yet. Never, not even a brand new house that's just been built. I find problems.
Given that.
But it's just one of the things I don't know what the house is doing. So I can't figure that aspect into the report side. The report side is I have to have this much time that I set aside for this inspection period for this report.
So just for a quick reference, what is your area? Like how far south have you gone? How far north have you gone? Kind of where's your kind of territory?
It's a very interesting question, Natalie. I am licensed in the state of Ohio, so that's the base.
That's your territory.
Is Ohio. I do business in Indiana as well. I have many in this area of the Lima, Findlay, Northwest Ohio area. That's the biggest bulk of my agents.
So can you tell us what are some of the most common things that you see in a typical residential property that we can, tell some of our clients or our future customers about what they should be looking at, what they should be looking for?
Biggest thing that I see that is on any structure, even a new one, is safety devices, and that's on the electrical side. What I follow is the NEC, or the National Electrical Code. I don't base what I see on an opinion of what I think it should be. I have to have a set of guidelines that I follow, that I go through. So I follow the NEC, and that says certain things. GFCIs, that's just a ground fault circuit interrupter. That's a safety device. Any receptacle on the outside of a house needs to be attached to one or a breaker. Any receptacle inside the house needs to be within 6 foot of a water source: sinks, toilets, tubs, showers. If there is one within that 6 foot perimeter, it has to be protected as well. And also the garage setting. And the NEC says wherever there's humidity, there needs to be, in the garage, a lot of times have humidity, open the garage doors and things of that nature. So I look for those, and that is probably If I find nothing else but that, that's the biggest thing that I find on every house. I shouldn't say, I don't want to say every house. I don't want to make it common that way, but biggest majority of them is the GFCIs.
Yeah, we've seen it a lot.
They are
too.
important. They are important.
I had no idea about the garages though. I never heard that.
Yes. There are loan types out there that require certain things. And one of the loans is the VA loan, and the FHA loan require these devices to be in place, which is very important. But I always ask the client, what kind of loan do you have? Not to be nosy by any means.
Oh, that's good stuff.
No, that's good to know.
I need to know from that viewpoint, because certain loans will dictate certain things. The conventional loan process will not dictate a GFCI. They won't do it. The USDA is getting away from, the USDA loan is getting away from that. The FHAs and the VAs are very strong on safety yet. The VA years ago didn't do them. Now they're doing, because all of these houses were being sold with no safety devices in place. And so when it gets up to a certain percentage of loans being sold, they say, hey, we got to change what we're doing here. So that's when they implemented the GFCIs. So I asked the question of that, but I don't do the inspection in regards of the loan type. I do the inspection in regards of the National Electrical Code. That's the key.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, because, you know, as agents, you know, we have to be aware of these things because we are in the know of, you know, what loan products that our clients are using. But I never even considered that from your perspective, why that would be important information to you. That's really good stuff.
So I know we talked a little bit about how the number of agents you've worked with has doubled pretty much in the past 18 months. So obviously it has to do with the market. Obviously it has to do where we're at right now with the pandemic. So you said you went from how many agents?
Within the last 18 months, I went from 34 to 68.
That's incredible. That's
And
great for you, man.
What that has done, getting to know somebody like yourself, Ashley, I've done business with you many times. And so you experience the process of me doing an inspection, and hopefully you like what you see and how I present it to your clients. Well, your client is now my client when I do the inspection process. So I want to make sure that they understand what's going on.
So I'm just curious. I know we've talked a little bit about this. So do you have any, funny anecdotes or stories or anything, even that's happened like before, after inspections, or anything that just kind of stand out to you?
I had a client one time where there was no gutters and downspouts on the house, and it was down in the Dayton area. Water was not so much in the basement. You have to put gutters and downspouts on this house. And so he calls me within 6 months after the purchase, complaining because he had water in his basement. Complaining that he had water in the basement. I just put all the stuff in his basement. It didn't raise him off the floor because there was signs there was water at one time. I didn't respond to his immediate concern until I drove by the house. And when I replied to him, I replied with him with pictures. Evidently, he didn't do what was recommended initially, as far as putting gutters and downspouts. That'll remove a tremendous amount of water away from your house if you have them attached. An average house in this area, and this is something that I've gained knowledge over the years, and I have a little formula to determine that I've gained, and it's worked. What the rainfall in this area would do, a 1,500 square foot house on average will shed between 50 to 60,000 gallons of water per year.
Wow.
So if that water is not being collected in the gutters and through the downspouts and getting it away from the house fast enough, guess where it's coming? It's coming into that house somehow. Water is the biggest enemy of any structure.
Sure.
That's been a proven fact forever. So what's happening? So when this guy called me, he was a little bit piffed about, water in his basement. All his stuff that he moved from this house to this house was getting wet. And so, yeah, he just didn't do what was in the report and what I mentioned to him when I was there. So that was
Number one, listen to your inspector.
Right. Listen to
They
the
know what they're talking
inspector. Listen to the inspector.
Hey, so can you tell us briefly, just a synopsis real quick about how water can affect your foundation and your footer and all that?
What I do is I look for different things that, not necessarily the gutters and downspouts, which is very important to maintain. The main thing to do on a structure, on any, if it's a block foundation, even if it's a slab, is to control the water around the perimeter of the house. So even when it's on a slab or whatever the case may be, you can't affect it because water can get up underneath that and could do some movement potentially. Water is probably when it's most effective, and it's called hydrostatic pressure, that puts pressure on the exterior foundations of the walls. And Ashley and I, we've seen houses before where it was just tremendous movement, tremendous decay of the block, decay of the concrete, because for years and years and years, it was not controlled on the outside. You could have all the gutters and downspouts that you want on a house too. But if the ground is not sloped, what we call a positive slope, and that is, you want it to look like a roof shed off away from the house. So you want the ground to be higher at the house than it is away from the house. So whatever the roof doesn't catch, it will hit that ground and it'll shed away. Now, if I see something that is irregular, which could be a bowing wall, could be defacing a brick or whatever, I am not the licensed professional to deem what is appropriate to fix this thing. Then I say you need to contract a contractor, or look at their history or whatever, or look at the online at their ratings or whatever, or just talk around. Get a professional licensed contractor who will look at this situation and deem it as, it'll be okay, or this is what needs to be done. My job is to look at a scenario and then pass it on, not to pass the buck, but to pass it on to a professional, if you will, to say, yes, it needs what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, it's really evident that you take a lot of pride in your work.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's where, if like anything else, if you don't have too much pride in it, you're not going to go very far. In my opinion, you're not going to.
True. So what's the future look like for you?
Busy.
Very, very busy. I see nothing but growth, potential of growth for myself, in a so-called down year.
Yep.
In a so-called down year, the rates of interest on a house are tremendously low. That's helping a lot for a lot of business. But I believe, Ashley, isn't there a huge? There's no glut of houses. There's not enough houses out there.
Yes,
There's
this is definitely
more
a
people
seller's
looking
market.
for houses.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
more people looking for houses than there are houses available. The goal for me is I have a number in mind of how many agents I need to sustain my business for years to come. There'll be those that'll drop off. There'll be those that'll drop off, or they'll get out of the business, or whatever the case, or their life situation changed where they're not selling. So those 68 agents are always, they're kind of fluid, kind of coming and going. But I see for myself, if I would have had 34 agents that I had 18 months ago, I would have done a third less what I did this past year. So it's always in the numbers. It's always in the numbers. If you know what your goal is and what you want to do, what you want to produce, you just take that figure of what you want to do and back it off, and how it takes, back it off and do the math, and this is what you need. So I have a lot of agents that would call me, you don't know me, but so you've done business with this agent or that agent. And that's how my business has been just growing. I get one of those phone calls every 10 days.
That's great, man. Good for you.
It's just a lot of hard work and determination. A lot of hard work and determination, really. But it's been a great ride so far.
That's great, man. Good for you. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, well, it's always a pleasure to work with you as well. I always, obviously we give our clients choices, but I always say, this is, one of our preferred. But yeah, definitely. I would always, suggest your services to any client looking to have a home inspection, and hopefully that helps your business for the rest of the year. So
yes, always appreciate it. Any business that I get.
Yeah. Right.
As far as that goes, that's always key.
But it was a pleasure speaking with you today. I hope to be doing business again with you soon. And
always appreciate it.
Thanks again. It was great talking to you today, Quint.
I have one more
Thank
question
you very
before
much.
we go.
Oh my God.
Ashley said you got a new truck over there at
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Mike, I'll put a shout out, Mike from Exceptional Motors up in Defiance, Ohio. I believe it's
Mike's
Mike,
good
right?
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
What'd you get?
Dodge Lamry 150 or 1500. I'm sorry, 1500. When you look at it, you think it's a brand new truck, but it had 83,000 miles. This was 2012.
Yeah, nice.
And there was only 5 with that less miles in 5 states. So I was very fortunate to find the one in Defiance, Ohio.
Yeah, I bought my truck there too just a few months ago. And I was telling
Yeah.
Ashley, like, nobody around has any, but for some reason they know what's selling, man.
Matter of fact, when I was in there I was talking to Mike, I said there was this agent in Lima that showed up with this blue Dodge one day, because you did that one inspection I did. And I was looking for her car. Her car wasn't there. And all of a sudden I walk up and here she's sitting in the truck. I said, who's that? I said, that's my husband. He's bought this truck. And so, where'd you buy it at? She told me. I just talked to Mike. I said, I had this agent in Lima that husband bought this truck off you. Well, who was that? And I said, Ashley Mangini. He said, Mangini. I said, yeah. He goes, well, I know Ashley. I know her husband too. But
Yeah.
on and went on.
Yeah.
I said, well, I feel better than buying the truck then, since you know them. Because I know Ashley won't send me somewhere that's not good. So I appreciate it.
That's good stuff, man. Yeah. Shout out to Exceptional Motor Car. I love my truck.
Exactly.
I'll be back.
Exactly. I will too, for sure. For sure.
All right, brother. Was there anything else you want to add before we get on out of here?
No, that's about it. I appreciate being there. Really do. Really appreciate it.
Great. What I'm going to do is also underneath the video, I'm going to put just like a digital card or something of yours with all your information on it.
Good.
So anybody
Thank you
can
very
reach
much.
out to you directly if they want to. So
Very good. For sure.
Well, we greatly appreciate everything, man. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you real soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks
Hey,
again.
thanks a lot, man. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
well, there was our talking with Quintin from Stillwater Inspection Services. I'm going to have his information. I'm going to post a quote underneath the actual podcast. So if you want to reach out directly, you can. In terms of next week.
Yeah, I think we're going to have, hopefully we have a good investor friend of mine.
A real estate investor.
Yeah, he's done some beautiful work. Hopefully I'll be able to get some pictures up for you guys too, but I really look forward to that. But this was an awesome interview. Quintin did great, and I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to do some great work probably for us in the future too.
Yep. Always.
So until next time,
Mangini's make it happen.
Team Mangini, have a great day, everybody.
Have a great week, guys. Thanks.